suppose I'm making myself available just to facilitate a discussion with Father, with all of you, with Stan and everybody here.
So yeah, we've got a lot of questions here online. Some were good, some were obviously taking the piss a little bit. I mean, there's one that asked how many selfies we take a day, and then
That's the one I'll answer.
that's the last one? Okay.
Question.
Yeah, definitely. Go ahead, Father.
I think that's a really important question. As much as some of us might think that that's a silly question, I think the only silly question, I apologise to anyone in the room that I've taught before, because you've probably heard this before and you're sick and tired of it. I'll understand if you leave. There's no such thing as a dumb question, right? A dumb question is one that you wanted to ask that you didn't ask. That's a dumb question. But this question about how many selfies do you take in a day? The answer is simple. I don't take any. I don't take any because I'm not good looking enough. But it's interesting that that question crosses our mind, because we live in a world that for whatever reason we feel that we have to take photos of ourselves. And that external photo that I look good in, that I stage so that someone likes it, becomes important for me. And I start to feel bad if not enough people shared it or not enough people commented on it. And tragically, it reveals it's a symptom of the disease of our age, that pride, that superficiality that characterises our age today. That it's actually normal to take a photo of myself and post it somewhere. So I just want to thank whoever put that question up there, because it might have been a bit of a joke, but it's not. It actually betrays a serious condition of our time today, that we actually feel that it's normal to take a photo of ourselves and put it up there for public comment. Why do we need someone's validation? Why does anyone in this room or anyone in the world feel that they have to take a photo of themselves and share it for public view and comment? Don't do that to yourselves, guys. You're more important than that. You're prettier than that. You're better than that. I want to thank whoever asked that question. Great question. I'll take a selfie with you at the end. You're not going to share it anywhere. You probably wouldn't want to. But do you see why are we doing that? Why am I taking a photo of myself? Is something missing? And I need validation from everybody else? In which case, there's a problem, right? Or is it pride? And I think I'm better than others, and this is how I rub it in people's faces. I think everybody, let's reflect on that. You know, why do we do it? And if we do it, good, I'm not going to change your mind, I'm not going to try to change your mind. But think about why you do it. Is this the feel-good drug that we need? Some people need drugs, some people need alcohol, some people need coffee, some people need sugar. I need people to see a photo of me and say how great I looked in it.
Is this something that you find that's very common in high school students? Because lately I've been noticing that a lot of our youth, especially young ladies, have image issues.
We know, we see the research is showing us that there are problems. And all the photos we see, they're all doctored. None of us need to be told that Kim Kardashian doesn't look like that. So, do you see that we set for ourselves the wrong role models? We copy the wrong prototypes. Instead of imitating someone who is virtuous, someone who is loving and caring and serves people, we just imitate someone because they look a particular way for a particular photo. They don't look like that. If we saw Kim Kardashian, God love her, God give her many years of health and happiness. If she walked in the room without makeup, none of us would recognize her. But this image of her that's all dollied up, all of us know it's fake. And we become fake. And when we can't become fake enough, we start to feel depressed and we get sick. And then we have self-image problems. You're all young. Your teachers told you about this not long ago. Most of you didn't finish school that long ago. Don't do that to yourselves, guys. If you have to put up a false image, a doctored image of yourself, because that's what you feel people are going to like, they're not people that you want to be your friends. If any of us feel that we have to put on different airs, or dress a particular way, or look a particular way for people to like us, they are not your friends. Steer clear. Anyone who's asking you to be anything other than who you really are is not someone you need to impress.
Stan? We also have Stan here, as always. That was, quite the take, Father. But I think something we need to hear. But also, I guess I'll play maybe devil's advocate. Like, maybe a lot of us, what we're thinking is there any harm in doing it, but without, doctoring photos, going photoshopping them and doing it a certain way just to share our life. Because we are living in a society where, even jobs now require you to have social media to link up with them and to be part of the team, so to speak. Like, we are living in this time where the social media does exist. And, like me, we use social media for Koi. Without social media, this room would be empty right now. We'd have 5 or 10 people here, probably. But it's because of social media, we get packed fellowships every week and we're bringing more people to Christ. That's what all I'll say, because we have a lot of questions about balance here as well. How can I balance this with living as a Christian?
So just probably, segue into that now. Why am I putting those photos up? If it's to inspire, to teach, to share knowledge, then that's honourable. We do that all the time. If it's because it fills some kind of gap in me, then there's an issue. So what is the motive? It's a bit like going out and feeding the hungry. Am I feeding the hungry because I recognise the image of Christ in that person who said I was hungry and he gave me food? Or am I doing it because Father Mavromatis is there with the camera, is going to take a photo of me and is going to post it, and everyone's going to say what a good bloke Peter is?
Yeah.
So what's the motive?
100%. Does anyone?
And I guess what gives you peace? If I'm not on Facebook, I lose my peace, I get angry. But I'm on LinkedIn, commercial, corporate, I find my peace. Again, I'm strategically there for my business. What's good for one person is not good for another. What gives you peace and what takes away your peace? If it takes your peace away, get rid of it.
Yeah, 100%. I think social media is a massive one, but I think what you just said now, Stan, is a big thing. What gives you peace, But we got a lot of questions. Does anyone want to ask something or go on top of that? Comment on that, what we just said? Anyone wants to rebuke or?
It's got to be people upset about negative comments about selfies. Come on.
I'm upset about it. I love a good selfie, especially when the lighting's right. Does anyone wants to say nothing? No.
Not my personal, but the favorite selfies are the ones at the gym.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are you trying to say? You follow me on Instagram?
No, I just see people, like at the gym and it's like.
You gotta show it. No, you don't have to show it. Like Father said, you don't have to show. You don't have to show off all the time.
Look, I understand if the Greek summer, like a lot of people went to Greece. Obviously, you're excited. You're on holidays, beautiful places. That's fine, but as Father said, you need to have a balance. If you're sharing a photo just to see how many likes you get, and you can see it yourself when when you do something because you want to show off, you know, you see that if people are not reacting to it the way you thought that they would react, you start getting, like I've had people come to church and say to me, I noticed you didn't like my latest post, or I noticed you did not accept my Facebook friendship request. This is the end of the liturgy. I'm like, come on. It's like, you know, it becomes, people take it very personally. It's like, you know.
Our generation is something else. I want to go off what we just said with this one. Some say, how can I still keep my friends happy when they ask me to come out with them to places that may be distracting, like nightclubs and parties? I usually try and avoid. So I guess it's still with the whole balance thing, to try and stay spiritual, they say.
If that is an easy one to answer, but I think the fact that someone asks that question betrays that they know the answer already. Because if you're comfortable doing it, you wouldn't ask. It's not that easy. Our friendship group is going clubbing, for example, and you feel uncomfortable doing it. Don't do it. If you feel uncomfortable, you said you feel uncomfortable, don't do it. Don't do anything that makes you feel uncomfortable. Nothing that's forced is good. So, does that make life easier? And I'm not going to say in contemporary society, because from the very beginning, this was an issue. St. Paul speaks about bad company corrupting good morals, right? So the question that we're discussing right now is one that St. Paul addressed 2,000 years ago. So if you feel uncomfortable, do that. And when I say do that, you know, withhold. And your friends, if they're real friends and they love you and you love them, they'll understand and they're not going to judge you, and they might even, you know, think about things the way you think about them. Don't do anything that makes you feel uncomfortable, whatever that is. Whether it's going to a nightclub, anything in the workplace, anything in a relationship, you know, don't do anything that makes you feel uncomfortable. That's your conscience saying to you, no. Wearing a shoe that's too small hurts as you try to stick your foot into it. So don't do it. So that situation where my friends are going to a club, things that happen there make me feel uncomfortable. It's not right, I don't feel good. Well, don't go. You have that right. You don't have to impress me because I'm going. Don't feel you have to come with me. I don't know, maybe the younger people
can answer that question a bit better.
Does anyone have anything?
I'm about 30 years beyond going to a nightclub. I'm probably not the right person to ask.
Stand. Keeping your friends happy.
I think you can't keep both aspects of your life, but I think that's probably part of your process of metania, just turning your life around for Christ and being uncomfortable and trying to come to terms with it's okay to be uncomfortable and it's okay to say no to other people. It's okay to disappoint them. Because like Father said, if they truly love you, they won't be disappointed. They'll understand that's your journey and they'll accept who you are. And the ones who are pushing you to be someone you're not, they're self-absorbed. They want you there for themselves. They don't really care about you. So I guess it's part of your journey, learning how to say no and how to become stronger in your faith and stronger in what's right by you and understanding who Christ made you to be for the world.
Look, it's difficult, as Father said, because you've got peer pressure. So if you've got friends that, for example, want to go to Fegaria on Saturday night, you know, as I've heard that it's the latest, very popular place to go to in Sydney. You just need to understand what happens there. If there are things that are making you feel uncomfortable when you go to places like that, obviously there's a reason why that's happening. Like if you've got to look over your shoulder, if someone's going to spike your drink, or if they're going to do something to you, to hurt you, mistreat you and stuff like that. Obviously, these are places then that we shouldn't be going there. And as Stan said, we should learn to say no. To say no. Last Friday we commemorated, the Greeks in 1940 saying no to the invading army, and we keep reminding people that that message of no has a diachronic meaning throughout the ages, that as Christians as well, we need to learn to say no sometimes. And obviously I'm not talking about having a birthday party at home and having, music and you're dancing with your friends and all that. That's fine, because it's a controlled environment. But if you're going clubbing, and as I said, you have to look over your shoulder if someone spikes your drink, or there's a sleazy person around, stuff like that. It means that these places maybe we shouldn't be going to these places, and then drunken behavior, and we hear so many accidents of people that leave clubs and they're intoxicated and they, have accidents and stuff like that. Obviously, these places promote behavior that is not Christ-like.
So it doesn't mean you never have to go clubbing either. So it's no tonight. If I feel uncomfortable tonight, my mates are going somewhere tonight, I'm not comfortable, I say no tonight. You don't have to sit there saying, no, I'm never going clubbing again, because there might be the right opportunity early in the night, good party out. So don't think that you're completely cutting your arm off type of thing. And it's also harder to make that commitment psychologically. No, I'm never going clubbing the rest of my life. No, tonight's, and I'll solve tomorrow. So don't make it a massive deal either in your head and build it up like it's such a big issue. Tonight, I don't feel right with where they're going or who they're going with or who my friends are. So therefore tonight I say no and worry about tomorrow.
It's like, for example, like we had our taverna night. So you had 2 taverna nights, and it was just pure fun, because you knew that the people around you were people you could trust and would look out for you, and you would have pure enjoyment, fun. So obviously being a Christian doesn't mean that, we're not killjoys, we're not people that don't enjoy life, but you need to, as the ancient Greeks said, pan metronariston, you need to find a balance in life. Life is not just all the time partying and, balance.
Yeah, I think that's what everyone's trying to ask. We had so many questions on balance and balancing your life and your spiritual life and then your life in the world. But I think I can only speak from experience that once you find Christ and you start falling in love with Christ and the church, you just start to change, and you don't even think about this stuff about balance. You just go with your heart, and if your heart tells you I want to be in church more, I want to get to church early on a Sunday or something, you just want to do that. It's not about the nightclub is this evil place. It's just, I just don't want to go tonight, like Stan said as well before, whatever gives you peace. If you don't have peace there, then don't go. If you feel peace, go for your life and then do whatever you want. But if you keep coming to these things in church and you start falling for Christ as someone you look to and find comfort in, then you just start changing things about your life and where you go and who you talk to. You won't even think about balance. You just follow your heart, I think, anyway.
If I could add, Evan, to what you said about balance, I think we need to stop thinking as things that Christ is part of and things that Christ is not part of, because there's no reason why we can't take Christ with us to the taverna. What does that mean? If I am a Christian, I'll go to the taverna and I'm going to have a good time at the tavern or at the party, and I'll think Christianly and I'll speak Christianly and I'll behave Christianly. So one doesn't exclude the other. So when we speak about balance, there's no dichotomy. A Christian person is not divided. Everything they do in a Christian way. They play a game of tennis or a game of footy in a Christian way. So, going back to the original question, if you feel uncomfortable, that's your conscience saying no. So because you feel uncomfortable, my answer would be no, because you already feel uncomfortable. But take Christ with you if you feel comfortable. We can go out as a group of 100 people, boys and girls mixed. We can sit on the same sofas, we can sleep in the same rooms. If, as Christians, we take Christ with us, we will respect each other, we will love each other, we will, engage properly and appropriately and in a Christian way together. Otherwise, we become schizophrenic. And now I'm Christian because I'm at church or I'm at fellowship. Now church service is finished, I'm at work, I'm not a Christian anymore. So that finding balance, I think maybe it's just a messy expression that I can't get my head around. Take Christ with you wherever you are. That's the balance.
Anyone want to add on that or ask a follow-up question? No. We have one here. As marriage is a holy sacrament, how do we make sure we are meeting and associating with the right people that may potentially be our spouse? I think it's pretty simple. But just come to Koi.
What's marriage? If we watch television, it's two good-looking people who marry, and they are always happy, and they wear nice clothes, and their kids are happy, and everything's good. They've got a nice house. And if you watch the wrong shows, they divorce and they marry someone else. But if we understand marriage as the sacrament through which two people work together to work out their own and each other's salvation, we see that it's something bigger. It's got nothing to do with how people look. And I dare say, don't misunderstand me, but it probably has less to do with how people feel about each other too. Because it's not about, I love you because you make me feel a particular way. It's I love you because I truly want you to help me, and I want to help you so we can carry our cross together, so we can enter paradise together. Saint Basil, who was not married, spoke so clearly about marriage. He said a successful marriage is one where both spouses go into paradise. So one that lasts forever. So how do you choose the right spouse? Someone that you want to work out your salvation with. Someone who completes you, someone who you complete in terms of working out your salvation together. Someone who comforts you and you comfort. Someone who you grow to love every day. Where will you find such a person? Like Evan said, somewhere like here. It doesn't mean you'll only find them at fellowship, right? But what's happening at fellowship? Those of us who have a particular concern in life, those of us who love Christ, have gathered with other people who love Christ. Well, there's a good start. In our parishes, people who love Christ, like we love Christ, understanding what marriage is, understanding that in marriage we carry a cross, we wear the crown of martyrdom in the marriage service. And that's what the Stephana represent, that's what the crowns represent. Yes, they represent husband and wife as king and queen of their own family, but I think that's a more recent interpretation, because when we put the crowns on the heads and we make the procession around the small altar, we chant the hymn of the martyrs, because marriage is all about sacrifice. It's all about submitting to the other. It's about serving the other, with the end goal that together we're working out our salvation in Christ.
Yeah, thank you, Father. The only thing I'm learning longer in my marriage, we're 2007 married, it's a large part of it is anchoring yourself to one another. Because like Father said, the feelings were off, the lust wears off, the fun goes away. You end up with, when you got little kids, it's like trench warfare. It's like painful torture. And both the fathers have been through it. Yeah, my son's here, he's not even listening. But it's literally anchoring yourself to another person, thinking we're joined, we're tied together, or we're going to push this battle through together. When the times are bad, it's not packing up and leaving. You love them, and the love is the action when the feelings aren't there. It's the commitment, it's the hard work. And it's the hardest thing we ever do, whether it's monasticism or marriage. It's the hardest commitment you're ever going to make in your life. It's not always fun. It's more bad than good, because life's harder. Life has more hard times and good times. So it's anchoring. It's literally that rock in your life. You keep moving forward, and Christ is at the center of that.
I think it's about understanding that it's easy to love on a wedding day. We've all been to weddings, right? Bride and groom both have done their hair nicely, the makeup's good, the clothes fit just right. It's easy to love at that moment, isn't it? What about when, like Stan said, the hair's messy, the clothes aren't even washed, someone's sick and there's kids crying and there's bills to pay? That's where the true love is shown. And that's why you need to, if you want to be married, find someone who understands marriage as that. If all we understand marriage as is I'm good looking, you're good looking, we're going to have good looking kids, well then, mate, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. Because one day your hair and teeth are going to fall out, your hair's going to go grey, makeup and Botox are not going to do anything for us anymore. Right? And what are we building, what are we basing that love on? In the epistle reading from the marriage service, St. Paul commands, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. So be ready, both spouses, to be spat upon, to be beaten, to be crucified, and to die for the other, so the other can be saved. So when you're thinking about marriage, that's who you are looking for. The one that you are willing to be crucified for, so that they can be saved, and the one who's going to be crucified for you, so that you can be saved. It's a bit deep, sorry to the young people in relationships. You can tell we're all happily married.
I'm just thinking about my teeth falling out.
I'm just thinking what everyone is in for. If only you knew.
No.
It's probably not the right thing to say. I'm sorry.
That'll be your only good day. Apparently. I'm sure marriage is nice at some point.
It is, it's very nice when we understand that that's what it is. When we understand that that's what marriage is, it's a sacrament, right? Me being single and, I don't know, going to India and opening orphanages is not a sacrament. Marriage is. But it brings us to Christ when we truly understand what it is. Otherwise, it becomes a burden.
Does anyone want to ask anything on that topic while we're here? No one's got questions at all about what we've said so far? No? Elena? Did you want to ask something? No?
She's scared we knock up into each other's bank account.
Okay. Liam?
I was still thinking about the question from before, the balance question. Maybe not just connecting it to the idea of a club. I think there's a reason why potentially it's a conversation. Like a lot more today, I feel like it's the reality. It's something that I struggle with a lot. And you brought up Aesios just before for the other answer. I think he says it in his book as well. He says we've kind of moved past a time where potentially the whole world thought in a Christian way. We've moved to a time where it's almost the opposite in terms of what you are exposed to outside this room. not just in clubs, it could be, I don't know, to give another example, if you're in a friendship group, even conversation, the way conversation is held has changed. It can be very anti-loving. It's not to say that banter is a bad thing, but the way I think people rip into each other, the language they use. As a young guy at school, there's conversations always about girls, what you're doing with that part of your life. I think it's all encompassing in terms of what young kids are exposed to. So what I would say is, or ask potentially is, having Christ with you everywhere you go, I think it's very profound. I haven't heard something like that. To be honest, that's a very profound way of putting it. What else is, I don't know, the key takeaways for young kids that are in this reality?
Where in the gospel, Father, Jesus says, have fair scales. So measure openly and honestly and fairly. Balance, using the scales analogy, fairly, Jesus says. So how do we live that Christian life in the playground where there's a conversation that's clearly, let's say unacceptable? How do I bring Christ there? Well, I maintain my standards that I set myself and I hold myself accountable to, and I won't swear, and I won't judge, and I won't speak inappropriately, and I won't make inappropriate gestures or anything else that happens. In my workplace, I might be quoting a job. How do I do that as a Christian? Well, I quote fairly. I'll get paid, I'll eat, but I'm not going to become a millionaire for every job I do. So I suppose, how do I take Christ everywhere, and how do I have that balance? In all moments, I remind myself that I'm a Christian. It's an honour to carry the name Christian, and I have to hold myself to that standard, that name that I call myself. So, yeah, when my friends are speaking about girls in a particular way, I won't speak like that. I'll pull them up and I'll say, guys, don't speak about her like that. She could be your sister. Someone speaking like that about your sister, your daughter, your mum, whatever. If you want to start a fight in the playground, that's all you need to say. But do you see that if you and I don't engage in it, we become examples for the people around us? And although we were always a minority, Christians with a conscience were always a minority, we will inspire the people around us by living in a Christian way. How many times do we speak with our friends and we get carried away in the conversation, we start gossiping and someone says, come on, let's not talk, stop talking about them. That's brought Christ to the conversation. How many times has someone done something and we're about to start judging, but someone says, look, don't. They're going through a bad moment in life. And all of a sudden, what could have been that bad, it could have degenerated into something really toxic, has, raised the level. So bring Christ with us wherever we are. When you're watching a game of footy, don't forget you're a Christian, right? So don't start swearing at people because the people around you are. Remember, you are a Christian. Hold yourself accountable to high standards. Don't change the way you behave because of the people around you or because of whoever's watching. Always be honest and open. And that helps you be more Christian. In everything you do, think, oh, the priest is listening. Mum and dad are watching.
Anyone? Something to say?
I think in our schooling, university work, it's also important not to just follow the leader and try to be the leader as much as possible. Someone I was trying to be growing up, I went to a pretty rough public school where there was a lot of crap going on around me, but always listened to my dad and my older brother say to me, try to be a leader and learn to say no. And if you continually do that in your life, people turn around and say, oh, I'm not going to ask George if he wants that piece of drug or if he's going to do that bad thing, because he's going to say no anyway. And they sort of start respecting you. So always try to be a leader in life, and as you tend to start following, that's when you can fall into a lot of traps. So whether it's clubbing or whatever situation you might be in, always try to lead the group, then they might follow the right thing at the end.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, that's 100%. If you, as Christians, we're leaders. We're called to be leaders anyway. As Christians, we're not going to follow the lead. Do you want to say anything about that, Stan?
That's really, really profound, and thank you for sharing that. And as Evan said, as Christians, we are leaders. Remember, Jesus said to us, "You are the light of the world. You are the salt of the earth." At no point did he say other people have to hold themselves to certain standards. We, as Christians, have to be those leaders that you're speaking about, and we have to show that example. And be countercultural. All of us say that, we're non-conformists, we don't do everything that everyone else does, but we are. So if you want to be a revolutionary, be a Christian.
Does someone have their hand up over here? Or here? Just put your hand up. It's not someone had their hand up before. No?
But it's not your job to change your friends either. So if we just work on ourselves, Aios always use him, fixed himself, he's saved millions and millions of people. So if, like George just said now, be a leader, fix yourself. You can fix others around you. If you can't fix yourself, you're no good to anyone. And a Christian's job is not to point the finger and ever tell somebody else what they're supposed to do or what they're doing wrong. So through your salvation, you'll save others.
I think if I say one more thing, you guys won't invite me again, and that's good, so I'll do it. What do the saints say? Stan mentioned St. Paisios. Remember when St. Paisios, he was asked, there was all these problems in the church, not in the church building, right, with the administration of the church, but with us. We are the church, we are the body of Christ. What did he say? If you want to fix a bit of the church, fix yourself, and part of the church will be healthier. So like Stan said, don't worry about saving anybody else. Let's go back to what Saint Seraphim of Sarov had said. You acquire the spirit of peace, and 1,000 around you will be saved. In his conversation to Motovilov. So, you lead yourself, guide yourself, instruct yourself, hold yourself to high standards, and grace is contagious. The people around you will do it as well. But I really liked what Stan said, that resonates with me. Don't try to save anybody other than yourself.
100%. No one wants to add on that? No. So we had a lot of questions about sex as well. I'm just going to say it because I think maybe a lot of young people are facing that now, and I know maybe, I don't know, it's uncomfortable or whatever to talk about, but I think we need to talk about it because it's very prevalent now. And the whole idea of premarital sex and waiting and the struggles of that, and nowadays it's very popular to have very long engagement periods or to be dating someone for a few years, even not even married. And like now today as a young Christian, obviously there's dangers to that possibly because we keep getting questions about it. There's a few questions there, even questions like, is it a sin to have sex with someone you're intending to marry? So like maybe if you have the intention to marry, it's okay. I don't know. Thoughts? Stephen? Go ahead, Stephen.
Look, I think the question is a serious one. It's a genuine one. It's on people's minds, and that's why people were courageous and asked the question about an issue that's pressing for them. Allow me to answer without any judgment or condemnation against anybody. I suppose, you ask me, I'll give you an answer. I respect the question enough to answer that. I'm not judging. Please, everybody understand that. No one is being condemned or judged. Christ is clear when he speaks about relationships between people. There is a standard that Christ has set for us. And as Christians, we try to maintain that standard. You might think that's a cop-out, but that's the answer. You might say, but it's not my place to correct Christ. Christ set a standard for us, and we will try to reach that standard. There is no judgment. There is none. And I know in today's world, this is such a big issue, and it genuinely is, and I understand that. I'm not making light of that. But there are so many other issues in our lives too, and so many other sins that we can fall into that are just as dangerous. And so I'm careful not to cast any judgment on anybody, because it's not beneficial, it's not edifying for anyone. But Christ set a standard for us. We continually try to maintain that standard. I'm sorry if that sounds like a cop-out, but yeah, we try to maintain that standard. So I suppose a subsequent question might be, but if I did, or if, okay, what happens when we fall? We get up, we rise again, and we try again. I know that sometimes, if you've got your Yah's voice echoing in your ears, if you do that, you're going to go to hell. A lot of things that we do, right, have the same destination. My judgment of others, my lack of love, my lack of compassion. So it's not one sin is worse than another. Christ gave us a standard. Let's try to always aim for that.
Look, it's a difficult topic because it comes up very often, especially when we as spiritual fathers, a father is a spiritual father, both Bishop Christodoulos and myself. Obviously, when you're dealing with younger people, but even older people, it's very common. And what I personally find is that, especially in young people that are still teenagers or late teens, early 20s, I find that there is a lot of pressure. It's usually pressure coming from boyfriends that you have the standard quote, if you love me, you're going to sleep with me. If you don't sleep with me, you don't love me. So it's usually people who are quite sensitive that feel that they need to express their love that way. But many times, as we hear often as spiritual fathers, once it happens a few times, after a few months, the love suddenly disappears, because a lot of that is based on sexual attraction. And so obviously we are human beings with weaknesses. That's why we have the sacrament of confession, and obviously the church doesn't judge anyone, and you can still remain pure and chaste even if if it's happened already. And but at the end of the day, sometimes it's about respecting yourself as well. Learning to say no to the other person. If you really truly love me, you will respect my wishes that I want, to remain like this until I get married. Because I know that most of our youth have the ideal that, it's reserved for marriage, because this is what Christ said, this is what the church says. So we have to make ourselves stronger by learning, once again, to say no, to resisting this temptation. Now, obviously, times have changed from, we had our parents, our grandparents, things were very strict. There are, like, if you want, during the old times, if you wanted to go out with someone, you pretty much had to give love, right? Nada when you're still at that moment. Obviously, things are different now. But at the same time, as I said, we need to learn to say no. Because there are many times that you go ahead with things and then suddenly the person says, all right, I'm off. Things are not working out, and then you're trying to pick up all the broken pieces, and then you start thinking, what did I do wrong? It must be my fault. And I've had many young people saying that they felt the pressure that maybe because they resisted all this time, that they feel that maybe they should be more open to the idea, and then they fall again, and they're finding it much more difficult to enter into a normal relationship that is based on trust and love and respect, loving the other person not because you just want to sleep with them, but because you love them as who they are. You want to get married to save each other, to achieve salvation in Christ. So it's a difficult question. One thing that I want to tell you though is that we're human beings, we fall. But as the church fathers say, if you fall, you get up again. That's why the sacrament of confession is so important, to be able to have that relationship with your spiritual father where you can go up to them and say, Father, I fell. Unfortunately, this has happened. What do I do now? And that's where the spiritual father, being assisted by the Holy Spirit, will be able to help you. But when you do not seek help, that's when we start falling into the same things again, the same passions. So don't feel embarrassed to go and speak to someone about an issue that may be ongoing.
The way I tried to understand it myself was I would like to compare it to being a teacher in primary school, for example. As teachers, you set rules to protect the students so they don't hurt themselves. And I thought that since we're like God's Almighty, and some things we just cannot understand, He set His rules, these standards for us to protect us that we can't understand, and we should just try our best to follow it.
Definitely, and I think that's the key, because everyone knows there's people who go through relationship after relationship. We all damage ourselves, friendship relationships, sexual relationships more so. So if you're going from one of those relationships to another, time's going to come you're going to want to marry. You've got a lot of baggage in your life. You've got a lot of damage, a lot of hurt, but then you've got to take it. It takes a long time. Sometimes people never get over it. So don't expose yourself to such high levels of damage, because it happens a lot. We all know there's people dated for 5 years, break up, they go and marry somebody else a year later. So those long relationships, it doesn't mean you're going to get married, doesn't mean it's going to work out. If Christ touches that relationship, people get married after 6 months and it works for a long time. People get married after 8 years, it falls apart after a year because the relationship wasn't touched by Christ. So don't think a sexual attraction does way more damage than good, adds baggage to that relationship, distracts that relationship.
Why does that happen, as a general question, but also you have two opposing beliefs where, 30, 40 years ago, our grandparents or our parents might have got married like that, it would have been arranged, that worked. Who's not to say that can't work today if the end goal is spiritual salvation towards Christ. But on the opposing side, like you said, where do you draw that distinction, or maybe set a boundary, or if you want to call it a checkpoint, so to speak, from dating phase to the actual initial engagement, where you engage in a relationship to see if you will marry that person. So maybe we're talking about sex and we're talking about marriage.
Two questions, because you've got 5
There's
minutes.
2 questions there. It's a very broad topic. I'd like to get everyone's opinion. Like, obviously, case by case with situations different, and everyone's probably got the same thoughts and ideas. Environment, the way you've been brought up, there's so many factors that will answer this question. But what works, or how do you define a boundary or a process, if there is a process, or with the end goal being marriage, but towards a truth? which is spiritual salvation, what you said, Father, where both parties are united together towards that end goal.
I'll give you Bishop Ilianos' take on that the other day. He said he watches it when the sex stops, the lust stops, that people don't know each other and there isn't a relationship beyond that, hence why they break. And I see my young papa who met 3 times before they got married. My papa grew a moustache, my young didn't recognise him at the engagement because she only met him twice before that. Their love grew around the problems, around their personality shortcomings. So their love was a genuine love. When your love is based around going out Friday night, fancy restaurants, handbags, clothes, having fun, sexual relations, then life hits you and your relationship doesn't have a strong enough love to take the hit. That's my opinion.
See, the fact that we're troubled by this issue, again, it's a red flag. It's our conscience saying to us, stop. We wouldn't ask that question, or any question, if we were sure. I think that doubt is telling us, slow down. And what Stan said resonates with me. I read some years ago a book by David Kopelian. At their 75th wedding anniversary, Armenians, their grandchildren asked them, how did they just meet at the altar and get married? And how did they love each other? The response was, we didn't love each other. We just met, like what Stan described. But it's love that grew. And it wasn't based on sex. Because when lust passes, that's it. There's nothing else. There's no shared interest. There's no shared vision or goal. So it's over. And then we move to someone else and someone else and someone else.
I think the challenges and the ways of thinking with the previous generations were different as well. For example, our grandparents grew up with the notion that, you know, even if you're having all these issues in your marriage, you just don't pack up your bags and go, you know, break the marriage. So things were a bit different. Obviously, the way we think today is obviously much more different. The challenges are different. So obviously we don't expect you guys to, you know, the moment you meet someone, you know, if that's person, you know, get engaged and get married in a few weeks. We're not saying that. But what we're saying is that you need sometimes to, you know, as Father said, as Stan said, to have the right frame of mind when you're trying to find someone. It's not just about, you know, going out all the time, partying, having sex, doing this, doing that, because this will all wear out. Once the kids arrive, the mortgage arrives, all these other responsibilities, sickness as well. Like lately I've visited a few homes where there was one home where the husband has been pretty much has had a stroke, and all he does all day is lie in his bed, and this has happened for 20 years. Now the wife is quite tired, but she loves her husband. So, you know, you can see that true love. You know, something happens, and if you don't have true love, now she could have easily said, yeah, I'm going to live my life, sorry, I can't look after you, I'm not your carer, I'm moving on. So true love, you know, exists after all these superficial things, but things that sometimes lack substance. And that's where all of you have to seriously think about what you're looking for in a relationship that will lead to marriage.
Just add one more thing, sorry to be killjoy, just before we move to the next question. Why is it that such a personal and intimate thing as sex, is spoken about in the media, is shown on TV, is the most commonly looked up thing on the internet. That should tell us there's a problem.
Problem with society or problem?
Society, but remember that we make up society. If society is corrupt, maybe we are not as faithful and as dedicated and as, I dare say, Christian as we ought to be.
Yeah. Any commentary from the crowd, from you guys? Does anyone want to ask a question on top of that? No one wants to know about sex from the fathers, or no? Okay.
Ask your PE teachers.
Aren't you a PE teacher?
Ask your own PE teacher.
How do you do with that, Father?
You're my PE teacher.
Word.
Like, we've got all this information, right? There's a constant debate happening where how old our children should be before they're exposed to all these things, you know, about sexual development and all that. I personally find that the more we expose our children not to how the body develops, but normalizing everything in life, the more problems we have. Because, as Father said, a topic that is sacred, because sex in marriage is something indeed sacred. It's not a bad thing. Like, when you get people coming to you for confession and like there are some warped things that people feel that in marriage it's not. It's a blessed thing. In marriage it's blessed. Okay? But there's so much information out there, and at such a young age that our youth are bombarded with, you know, normalizing everything, you know. We have everything, but yet we've got nothing. And you can see it in modern day relationships today. You know, there's no substance. So shows like the ones that I'm not watching them, but you know, you hear people about like a show that, you know, like Married at First Sight or something like that, like promoting toxic behavior between people, you know, and treating women as things, and you know, and all that. This is just promoting a sense of disrespect, and that's why everything's just going downhill in society today, and we're part of that. We're part of that because we're promoting that in schools and everywhere else.
You had a question, maybe, Chris?